Admiral Park Woo-jin stood on the observation deck of the massive space station called Harmony's Promise. Through the thick glass windows, he could see the blue and green planet Kepler 442b spinning slowly below. The planet was neutral territory, chosen 50 years ago as the perfect meeting place for all the different species in the galaxy. Today was supposed to be a celebration. 50 years of peace between humans and the 4 major alien races. Park Woo-jin adjusted his dark blue uniform and checked his watch. The ceremony would begin in 2 hours. Representatives from the Vorthak, Nimari, Kelthani, and Drexy would join the humans to celebrate half a century without war. Park Woo-jin had fought in the last conflicts before the peace began. He remembered how terrible those wars had been. Millions had died before the species finally agreed to work together. Since then, humans had helped build hospitals on Vorthak crystal worlds. They had designed new communication systems for the gaseous Nimari. Human engineers had created better hive structures for the insect-like Kelthani. They had even developed new water purification systems for the aquatic Drexy. The door behind him opened with a soft hiss. Captain Lee Dahai walked in, her black, hair tied back in a neat bun. Her usually calm face looked worried. "Admiral," she said quietly, "we need to talk. Something is wrong." Park Woo-jin turned away from the window. "What do you mean?" Lee Dahai glanced around to make sure they were alone. "Our communication specialists intercepted some strange signals 3 days ago, encrypted messages between the alien delegations. They thought the messages were just normal diplomatic talks, but Dr. Kim Tae-ho asked me to look at them more carefully." Dr. Kim Tae-ho was one of the smartest humans Park Woo-jin knew. The xenobiologist had spent his whole career studying alien species and had always supported peaceful cooperation. If Kim Tae-ho was worried, there was good reason. "What did you find?" Park Woo-jin asked. Lee Dahai pulled out a small device and pressed a button. A holographic display appeared in the air between them. Lines of text scrolled past in different alien languages, with human translations appearing below. "The messages talk about something called Final Solution Protocol," Lee Dahai said. "All 4 alien species have been planning this for years. They want to eliminate humans completely." Park Woo-jin felt his blood turn cold. "That's impossible. We've been allies for 50 years. "That's what they want us to think," Lee Dahai replied. "According to these messages, they've been afraid of us from the beginning. They think humans are too dangerous because we adapt too quickly and learn their technologies too fast. They believe that eventually humans will dominate the galaxy." The hologram showed tactical plans and fleet movements. Park Woo-jin studied the information with growing horror. The alien species had been secretly building weapons and moving ships into position around human colonies for months. "They plan to strike all at once," Lee Dahai continued. "Earth, Mars, the Jupiter colonies, and every human outpost in known space. They want to make it look like humans attacked first, so they created fake evidence that we're building planet-killer weapons." Park Woo-jin's hands clenched into fists. "Where is Dr. Kim Tae-ho now?" "He's in the science section trying to contact our colonies to warn them." "But Admiral, the attack is supposed to begin in less than an hour, during the celebration ceremony." Park Woo-jin grabbed his communication device. "This is Admiral Park to all human personnel. Code Red. Prepare for immediate evacuation. This is not a drill." Alarms began sounding throughout the station. In the distance, Park Woo-jin could see alien ships moving into attack positions. The Vorthak vessels looked like giant crystals that sparkled with deadly energy. The Nimari ships were strange clouds of gas held together by energy fields. The Kelthani brought their hive ships, massive structures that buzzed with activity. The Drexy vessels looked like giant bubbles filled with dark water. "Captain Lee, get our people to the escape pods," Park Woo-jin ordered. "I need to reach Ambassador Yoon So-ra and get her off this station." Lee Dahai nodded and ran toward the evacuation areas. Park Woo-jin rushed through the corridors of Harmony's Promise, dodging panicking civilians and confused alien representatives who didn't know about the secret plan. He found Ambassador Yoon So-ra in the main conference hall, still preparing for the celebration ceremony. She was a small woman with gray hair, but her voice could command the attention of entire rooms. She had negotiated many of the peace treaties that had kept the galaxy stable. "Ambassador, we have to leave now," Park Woo-jin said, grabbing her arm. "What's happening?" she asked, looking confused. "The aliens are about to attack us. All of them together. This whole celebration is a trap." Yoon So-ra's face went pale. "Are you certain?" Before Park Woo-jin could answer, the station shook violently. Emergency lights flashed red, and a computerized voice announced, "Hull breach detected. All personnel evacuate immediately." Through the conference hall's large windows, they could see the alien fleets firing on human ships. Bright energy beams crossed the darkness of space. Human vessels exploded in brilliant flashes of light. "My God," Yoon So-ra whispered. 50 years of peace and it was all a lie. Park Woo-jin pulled her toward the nearest escape pod. As they ran, his communication device crackled with desperate messages from human colonies across the galaxy. "Earth is under attack. Repeat, Earth is under attack. Mars command is gone. They destroyed our entire defensive fleet. The Jupiter colonies are being evacuated, but we don't have enough ships." Park Woo-jin and Ambassador Yoon So-ra reached the escape pod just as another explosion rocked the station. Through the pod's small window, Park Woo-jin watched Harmony's promise break apart. The symbol of 50 years of cooperation was dying in the cold vacuum of space. As their escape pod flew away from the battle, Park Woo-jin's communication device buzzed with an incoming message. It was Dr. Kim Tae-ho's voice, but he sounded excited, rather than afraid. "Admiral, can you hear me? I'm transmitting from Emergency Bunker 7 on Luna. You need to know something important. The aliens made a huge mistake." "What do you mean?" Park Woo-jin asked. "They think they caught us by surprise, but they didn't. We've been preparing for this possibility for decades. They're about to learn what humans are really capable of." The message cut off, leaving Park Woo-jin staring at the communication device. Around them, space was filled with burning ships and debris. The galaxy was at war again, and this time it would be a fight for human survival. But Dr. Kim Tae-ho's words echoed in Park Woo-jin's mind. What had the aliens missed? What were humans really capable of? As their escape pod flew toward the nearest human base, Park Woo-jin began to hope that maybe, just maybe, the aliens had made the biggest mistake in galactic history. The betrayal was complete, but the war was just beginning. Behind them, the alien fleets moved toward human space, confident in their victory. They believed they had destroyed humanity's ability to fight back. They thought the war would be over. Quickly, they were about to discover how wrong they could be. Deep beneath the surface of Luna, Earth's moon, engineer Choi Yu-na sat in front of dozens of glowing screens. The underground facility was so secret that most humans didn't even know it existed. For 30 years, Choi Yu-na had worked here, preparing for a day she hoped would never come. Today was that day. The screens showed the destruction happening across human space. Earth's orbital defenses were fighting desperately against the Vorthak crystal ships. The Mars colonies were evacuating, as Nimari gas clouds poisoned their atmosphere. The Kelthani were swarming through the asteroid belt, destroying mining stations. The Drexy had flooded several human underwater cities, but Choi Yu-na was not panicking. Instead, she was smiling. "Computer," she said clearly, "begin awakening protocol. Authorization, Choi Yu-na, Chief Engineer, Project Hidden Shield." The computer's voice was calm and mechanical. "Awakening protocol initiated. Please confirm. This action will reveal all concealed human military assets. This action cannot be undone." "Confirmed," Choi Yu-na said. "Wake them all up." Across human space, things that had seemed harmless suddenly came alive. The mining station near Saturn that the aliens thought they had destroyed easily suddenly activated massive shield generators. The research outpost studying black holes revealed itself to be a weapons manufacturing facility. Communication relay stations throughout human territory began broadcasting new signals. Most shocking of all, the aliens discovered that every single human facility had hidden defenses. What they thought were weak civilian targets turned out to be military bases disguised as peaceful installations. General Han Min-soo had been on Mars when the attack began. The aliens thought they had killed him when they destroyed Mars Command with their first strike. But Han Min-soo was now walking through tunnels deep under the Martian surface. He had gray hair and scars from old battles, but his eyes were sharp and focused. "Status report," he said to the officers waiting for him in the underground command center. "Sir, all hidden facilities are now active," reported Major Kang Soo-jin. "The aliens are completely confused. They expected our colonies to fall quickly, but we're fighting back from positions they didn't know existed." Han Min-soo nodded. For 20 years he had planned for the possibility that the alien alliance would turn against humanity. Every human colony had been built with secret bunkers and hidden weapons. Every civilian facility had a military purpose that the aliens had never suspected. "What about our intelligence on alien weaknesses?" he asked. "Complete files ready, sir," Major Kang replied. "We've been studying their technology and biology for decades. We know exactly how to hurt each species." Meanwhile, in space above Earth, Captain Lee Da-hai commanded a human fleet that shouldn't have existed. The aliens thought they knew about all human military ships. They were wrong. Hidden in asteroid fields and camouflaged near space stations, hundreds of human warships had been waiting for this moment. "Target the Vorthak crystal forged ship," Lee Da-hai ordered from the bridge of her vessel, the Indomitable. "Use resonance weapons." The human ships fired beams of energy that vibrated at exactly the right frequency to shatter Vorthak crystals. The aliens watched in horror as their strongest ship broke apart like glass hit by a hammer. "How is this possible?" transmitted the Vorthak commander. "You don't have resonance technology." "We do now," Lee Da-hai replied coldly. "We learned it from studying your own ships. Thank you for teaching us how to destroy you." The human strategy was brilliant and terrifying. For 50 years, while pretending to be peaceful allies, humans had been secretly analyzing every piece of alien technology they could find. They had discovered the weaknesses of each species and developed weapons specifically designed to exploit those weaknesses. Against the gaseous Nimari, humans used containment fields that compressed their gas bodies until they became solid and helpless. Against the insect-like Kelthani, they deployed sonic weapons that disrupted the hive mind communication that held their society together. Against the aquatic Drexy, they used devices that could instantly freeze or boil water, making their ships uninhabitable. But the most shocking revelation came from engineer Choi Yu-na's facility on Luna. She had been working with a team of scientists to reverse engineer technology from all 4 alien species. The result was human ships that could use crystal energy like the Vorthak, flow like gas like the Nimari, coordinate like hives like the Kelthani, and operate underwater like the Drexy. "We're not just fighting like humans anymore," Choi Yu-na explained to Admiral Park Woo-jin over a secure communication channel. "We're fighting like all of them, but better." The alien fleets that had been confident of quick victory suddenly found themselves facing an enemy they didn't understand. Human ships moved with impossible coordination, used weapons that shouldn't exist, and seemed to know exactly where to strike for maximum damage. On the Vorthak homeworld, the crystal beings watched their orbital defenses crumble as human ships used their own technology against them. The humans had learned to grow crystals that resonated at destructive frequencies, turning Vorthak cities into musical instruments of destruction. In the gas giant atmospheres where the Nimari lived, human fighters flew through the toxic clouds using environmental suits that should have been impossible to build. They planted devices that changed the chemical composition of the Nimari's home atmosphere, making it poisonous to the beings who had lived there for millions of years. The Kelthani hives found their communication networks hacked by human cyber warfare, specialists who had spent decades learning how insect minds work together. Suddenly, different parts of the hive were receiving contradictory orders, causing chaos and confusion throughout their society. The Drexy underwater cities faced human submarines that could operate at crushing depths no human should survive. These vessels released nanobots into the water that made it impossible for Drexy to breathe, forcing them to evacuate their own homes. "This is impossible," transmitted the Joint Alien Command. "Humans are supposed to be weak. They're supposed to need our help to survive." General Han Min-soo's voice came through on all alien communication channels. You were right to fear us. You just waited too long to act. For 50 years, you thought you were teaching us to be civilized. Instead, you were teaching us to be better predators than you could ever imagine. The aliens had made a fatal error in their understanding of humanity. They thought humans were dangerous because they were aggressive or violent. But the real danger was something much more frightening. Humans were the most adaptable species in the galaxy. They could learn any skill, use any technology, and survive in any environment. More importantly, humans had spent 50 years pretending to be grateful students while actually becoming masters of alien science. Every technology trade, every cultural exchange, every peaceful cooperation had been an opportunity for humans to learn and improve. The aliens had created their own destroyers by trying to keep humanity weak and dependent. Instead, they had given humans the tools and knowledge needed to defeat all 4 alien species simultaneously. As the battle raged across the galaxy, one thing became clear. The aliens had not caught humanity by surprise. Humanity had been waiting for this betrayal, preparing for it, and planning to turn it into the greatest mistake the aliens would ever make. The awakening was complete, and humanity was no longer hiding what they truly were. Commander Bei Ji-wan floated in the airlock of her stealth ship, checking her environmental suit one final time. Outside, the Vorthak homeworld sparkled like a giant diamond in space. The planet's surface was covered in crystal cities that grew, naturally from the ground, beautiful and alien. In 10 minutes, those cities would become weapons against their own creators. Team leaders, report status, Bei Ji-wan said into her helmet communicator. Team Alpha ready, came the voice of Lieutenant Nam Ho-seok. Resonance charges planted at primary crystal nodes. Team Beta in position, reported Sergeant Park Ye-jin. Harmonic disruptors online. Team Gamma standing by, confirmed Corporal Lee Jae-sung. Frequency modulators activated. Bei Ji-wan smiled grimly. Her special operations team had spent 3 months preparing for this mission. They had studied Vorthak biology, learned their language, and practiced moving through crystal environments. Most importantly, they had discovered something the Vorthak didn't know about themselves. Their crystal cities were actually giant musical instruments. Execute Operation Crystal Song, Bei Ji-wan ordered. Across the planet's surface, human devices began generating specific sound frequencies. The Vorthak had built their cities using natural crystal resonance, never realizing that the same resonance could be turned into a weapon. As the human-generated frequencies spread through the crystal matrix, the entire planet began to vibrate. The Vorthak felt the vibrations in their crystalline bodies and panicked. Their cities, which had stood for thousands of years, began to crack and shatter. The beautiful crystal spires that reached toward the sky fell like broken glass. Impossible, transmitted the Vorthak prime crystal. How do the humans know our harmonic vulnerabilities? We studied you for 50 years, Bei Ji-wan replied through the planet's communication system. We know you better than you know yourselves. Meanwhile, in the gas giant Nimari 7, Dr. Lim Hyun-woo was conducting a very different kind of operation. His research vessel floated in the upper atmosphere, surrounded by the gaseous forms of Nimari beings. The aliens looked like colored clouds, with sparkling lights inside them, beautiful and ethereal. Dr. Lim Hyun-woo was about to make them solid. Begin atmospheric modification, he told his team. Release the compression particles. Millions of tiny devices spread through the gas giant's atmosphere. Each device generated a small containment field, but together they created a planet-wide effect. The gases that made up the Nimari began to compress and solidify. The Nimari screamed as their gaseous bodies became heavy and solid. They fell from the sky like rain, no longer able to float freely through their atmospheric home. For the first time in their species' history, they experienced weight and gravity. Help us, they transmitted desperately. We cannot survive in solid form. You should have thought of that before trying to genocide us, Dr. Lim Hyun-woo replied coldly. On the Kelthani Hive World's navigator Oh Yun-ji was leading a psychological warfare campaign that was driving an entire species insane. The insect-like Kelthani lived in perfect harmony because all members of a hive shared the same thoughts through biological radio waves. Oyunji had learned to speak their language. Her ships broadcast false thoughts into the Kelthani communication networks. Different hives began receiving contradictory information. Some hives thought they were under attack by other hives. Others believed their queens were dead. Many simply became confused about what they were supposed to be doing. The result was chaos on a planetary scale. Kelthani workers abandoned their tasks. Soldiers fought each other instead of humans. Queens lost contact with their subjects. The perfect unity that had made the Kelthani powerful became their greatest weakness when humans learned to disrupt it. The hive mind is fragmenting, reported communications specialist Yoon Tai-min. They're fighting civil wars on 12 different worlds. Good, Oyunji said. Let them experience what it's like to be individuals for once. See how they like making decisions alone. The most spectacular assault was happening in the deep oceans of Drexy Prime. The aquatic Drexy lived in cities built on the ocean floor, where the pressure was so intense that no other species could survive. They had always considered their deep-sea homes to be impregnable fortresses. They had never met humans determined to prove them wrong. Captain Seo In-ho piloted his submarine through waters that should have crushed any human vessel. His ship was built using hybrid technology that combined Drexy pressure resistance with human engineering innovations. Around him, a fleet of similar submarines moved through the alien ocean like mechanical sharks. Target the thermal vents, Seo In-ho ordered. Deploy the water modification charges. The Drexy cities depended on underwater thermal vents for energy and heat. Human submarines planted devices near these vents that changed the chemical composition of the seawater. The water that had supported Drexy life for millions of years suddenly became toxic to them. Drexy beings fled their cities as the water around them became unbreathable. They rose toward the surface, but the pressure change was killing them. Those who stayed in the depths found their water supply poisoned. Either way, they were doomed. This is impossible, transmitted the Drexy Deep Council. No species can survive at these depths except us. Wrong again, Captain Seo In-ho replied. Humans can survive anywhere we need to. We learned that from trying to keep up with all of you. What made the human assault so devastating was not just the technology, but the strategy behind it. Humans were not just using alien weaknesses against them. They were turning each species' greatest strengths into fatal vulnerabilities. The Vorthax crystal cities, which had made them masters of harmonic energy, became musical instruments of destruction. The Nimari's gaseous forms, which had let them flow through any space, became prisons when solidified. The Kelthani's hive mind unity, which had made them perfectly coordinated, became chaos when disrupted. The Drexy's deep-sea adaptation, which had made them untouchable in their ocean homes, became death traps when the water itself turned against them. But the most frightening thing about the human assault was how effortlessly they operated in alien environments. Human soldiers walked through crystal caverns wearing suits that resonated with Vorthak frequencies. Human pilots flew through toxic gas clouds breathing air that should have killed them. Human marines fought underwater at pressures that should have flattened them instantly. Each human seemed to be adapted perfectly for fighting in alien territory, as if they had been born to operate in environments that should have been impossible for their species. How are they doing this? Demanded the Joint Alien Command in a desperate transmission to all their forces. The answer came from Admiral Park Woo-jin, broadcasting from Earth orbit. You spent 50 years teaching us about your worlds, your biology, your technology. You thought you were helping weak humans become civilized. Instead, you were giving us everything we needed to destroy you. We gave you knowledge to help you, protested the Vorthak Prime Crystal. And we used that knowledge exactly as you taught us, Park Woo-jin replied. You taught us that knowledge is power. You taught us that adaptation is survival. You taught us that the strong make the rules. Congratulations. You were excellent teachers. The alien species were learning a terrible lesson about humanity. Humans were not just adaptable, they were perfectly adaptable. They could learn any skill, use any tool, survive in any environment, and master any challenge if given enough time and motivation. The aliens had given them 50 years of time and the ultimate motivation, as human forces pressed their attacks. Across alien space, one thing became clear. This was no longer a war between equals. This had become a demonstration of why humans deserved to inherit the galaxy. The storm had begun, and it would not stop until the lesson was complete. Captain Lee Dehai stood in the hangar bay of the human ship Redemption, looking at the most advanced spacecraft ever built. The vessel behind her was no bigger than a shuttle, but it contained technology from all 5 species in the galaxy. It had to. Nothing else could survive the journey they were about to make. "Final systems check complete," reported engineer Choi Yuna, climbing down from the ship's hull. "The quantum shields are holding steady, but I can't promise they'll protect us once we're inside the disruption field." Lee Dehai nodded. Around her, the volunteer crew made their final preparations. Lieutenant Jang Min-ho checked the navigation systems one last time. Dr. Park Dong-hyun calibrated the sensors that would help them find the Cosmic Disruptor's control center. Sergeant Kim Ha-na loaded the shutdown device that might, if they were very lucky, turn off the weapon before it consumed the entire galaxy. Each crew member represented a different human colony. They had volunteered knowing they would probably die, but also knowing that someone had to try. "Captain," came Admiral Park Woo-jin's voice over the communication system, "are you ready?" "As ready as anyone can be for an impossible mission," Lee Dehai replied. "What's the status of the disruption field?" "It consumed the Rigel system 2 hours ago," Park Woo-jin said quietly. "We estimate you have less than 6 hours before it reaches the next populated system." 6 hours. Lee Dehai looked at her crew and saw the same determination in their eyes that she felt in her heart. 6 hours to fly into a field that destroyed everything it touched, find a weapon built by alien technology they barely understood, and shut it down before it killed everyone in the galaxy. "All crew aboard," she ordered. "Time to save the universe." The ship that carried them toward certain death was a miracle of cooperative engineering. Human scientists had worked with reluctant alien experts to design shielding that could theoretically protect them from the disruption field's effects. The key word was theoretically. No one really knew if it would work. As they flew toward the expanding zone of destruction, Lee Dehai watched the stars disappear on her navigation display. Entire systems that had existed for billions of years were simply gone, as if someone had erased them from reality. "Entering the outer edge of the disruption field," reported Lieutenant Jang Min-ho. "Quantum shields are holding, but they're under extreme stress." The ship began to shake violently. Through the viewports, they could see space itself twisting and warping around them. Stars appeared and vanished randomly. Planets flickered in and out of existence. The laws of physics were breaking down. "How can anything survive in here?" whispered Sergeant Kim Ha-na. "It's not supposed to," Dr. Park Dong-hyun replied, studying his instruments. "The field is rewriting the fundamental constants of reality. We're only alive because our shields are creating a small bubble of normal space-time around us." Deeper into the field they flew, past the ghosts of dead worlds and the twisted remains of space itself. The disruption grew stronger the closer they got to its center. Several times their shields flickered and nearly failed completely. "There," Lieutenant Jang Min-ho said suddenly, pointing at his display. "I'm picking up a massive artificial structure directly ahead." The cosmic disruptor appeared on their screens like a vision from a nightmare. It was enormous, easily the size of a small moon, and covered with technology from all 4 alien species. Vorthak crystals provided the power source. Nimari gas systems controlled the field generation. Kelthani computers managed the targeting. Drexy water cooling systems prevented overheating. But something was wrong with the weapon. It was covered in chaotic energy discharges that sparked and twisted through the warped space around it. The device was clearly out of control, feeding on its own power and growing stronger every moment. "Look at the power readings," Dr. Park Dong-hyun said in amazement. "It's drawing energy directly from the quantum vacuum. No wonder it's spiraling. Out of control." As they approached the massive weapon, alien ships attacked them. Even here, at the end of everything, some alien factions still believed the humans were trying to trick them. Vorthak crystal fighters and Kelthani drone swarms tried to stop the human rescue mission. "They're insane," Sergeant Kim Hana said as she returned fire. Can't they see we're trying to save everyone? Fear makes people stupid, Lee Dehai replied. Just like it made them build this thing in the first place. The battle was brief but intense. The alien ships were powerful, but they were also being torn apart by the disruption field. Most of them couldn't maintain their shields in the chaotic environment. The human ship, protected by hybrid technology, survived where the alien vessels failed. Approaching the control center, Lieutenant Jang Min-ho reported, I'm detecting a docking port, but the field distortion is making it almost impossible to navigate. Lee Dehai took manual control of the ship, flying by instinct through space that no longer followed normal rules. Twice they nearly crashed into surfaces that appeared and vanished without warning. Once they flew through a region where gravity pointed in 6 different directions at once. Finally, they reached the docking port and connected their ship to the alien weapon. Remember, Dr. Park Dong-hyun said as they prepared to board the cosmic disruptor. Inside this thing, the laws of physics might be completely different. Stay close together and don't touch anything unless I tell you to. The interior of the weapon was even stranger than its exterior. Corridors curved in impossible directions. Rooms existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Technology from 4 different species had been merged in ways that defied comprehension. At the center of it all was the control room, where a massive computer system managed the disruption field. But the computer was malfunctioning badly, displaying readouts that made no sense and responding to commands randomly. Can you shut it down? Lee Dehai asked. Dr. Park Dong-hyun studied the alien controls for several minutes. The system is completely out of control. It's not just malfunctioning, it's evolving. The disruption field has become self-aware and is actively resisting shutdown attempts. What does that mean? Sergeant Kim Hana asked. It means the weapon doesn't want to be turned off, Dr. Park Dong-hyun replied. We're going to have to force it. The shutdown process was terrifyingly complex. Dr. Park Dong-hyun had to interface directly with the alien computer system, connecting his own mind to the chaotic artificial intelligence that controlled the disruption field. The process would almost certainly destroy his consciousness, but it was the only way to override the weapon's safeguards. I can do this, he said, placing his hands on the interface controls. But once I connect to the system, there's no going back. The field will consume my mind along with everything else. Doctor, no, Lee Dehai protested. There has to be another way. There isn't, he replied simply. Someone has to merge with the system to shut it down from within. It might as well be me. Dr. Park Dong-hyun activated the interface. Immediately his body went rigid as his consciousness entered the alien computer system. On the screens around them, they could see him fighting a battle of pure thought against the artificial intelligence that controlled the disruption field. For several minutes, the outcome was uncertain. The disruption field pulsed and wavered as 2 minds, one human, one artificial, struggled for control. Dr. Park Dong-hyun's face showed the strain of fighting an intelligence that existed in dimensions he couldn't fully comprehend. Then, suddenly, the screens went dark. The constant vibration that had filled the weapon since they arrived slowly faded away. Outside, the chaotic energy discharges stopped flickering around the device's hull. Status report, Lee Dehai said urgently. Lieutenant Jang Min-ho checked his instruments. The disruption field is collapsing. Power levels are dropping rapidly. I think it's working. But their celebration was premature. As the disruption field collapsed, it released all the energy it had consumed over the past weeks. The explosion would destroy everything within light years, including their ship. We need to leave now, Lieutenant Jang Min-ho said. The quantum shields won't protect us from this. They ran back to their ship, leaving Dr. Park Dong-hyun's body connected to the alien computer. His mind was gone, sacrificed to save the galaxy, but his final gift was still protecting them. The shutdown sequence he had initiated was holding, giving them precious minutes to escape. As their ship fled the collapsing disruption field, Lee Dehai sent one final transmission to Admiral Park Woo-jin. Mission accomplished. The field is collapsing, but the explosion will be enormous. Dr. Park Dong-hyun gave his life to shut down the system. Make sure everyone knows that a human scientist died to save the galaxy, including the same aliens who tried to destroy us. The explosion, when it came, lit up the entire sector of space. But it was contained, controlled by Dr. Park Dong-hyun's final program. Instead of consuming the galaxy, the energy dispersed harmlessly into the quantum vacuum. The impossible mission had succeeded, but at a terrible cost. Humanity had saved everyone, including their enemies, but they had lost one of their best people in the process. As Lee DeHai's ship limped back toward human space, she wondered if the aliens would ever understand what humans had sacrificed for them. Probably not, she thought, but that didn't matter. What mattered was that the galaxy would survive, and everyone would know that humanity had. Dr. Kim Tae-ho stared at his computer screen in horror. The data made no sense, but he had checked it 17 times. Every calculation led to the same, impossible conclusion. The galaxy was about to die. Admiral Park, you need to see this immediately, he said into his communicator. His hands were shaking as he transmitted the data to Earth Command. 3 weeks had passed since the aliens activated something they called the Cosmic Disruptor. They had built the ancient weapon in secret, hoping to create a dead zone around human space that would trap humanity forever. The device was supposed to make faster-than-light travel impossible in a limited area, effectively putting humans in a cosmic prison. Instead, it was unraveling the fabric of spacetime itself. Admiral Park Woo-jin appeared on Kim Tae-ho's screen within minutes. The admiral looked tired. 3 weeks of constant warfare had aged him years, but his eyes were still sharp and focused. "What am I looking at, Doctor?" Park Woo-jin asked. "A galaxy-ending catastrophe," Kim Tae-ho replied. "The aliens don't understand how their own weapon works. The cosmic disruptor isn't creating a localized effect. It's feeding on itself, growing stronger with every star system it destroys. The data showed the truth in terrible detail. The Kepler system, where the aliens had first activated the weapon, was completely gone. Not destroyed. Gone. As if it had never existed. The disruption field was expanding in all directions, consuming everything in its path. "How long do we have?" Park Woo-jin asked quietly. "At the current rate of expansion, the entire galaxy will be consumed within 8 months, Kim Tae-ho said. But the field is accelerating. It might happen much faster." On Earth, President Song Mi-young sat in the emergency bunker beneath Seoul. Around her, military advisors and government officials argued about their options. The war against the aliens was going well. Too well. Human forces had pushed the alien species back to their core worlds. Victory seemed certain, but victory wouldn't matter if there was no galaxy left to claim. "We need to contact the aliens," Dr. Kim Tae-ho said during the emergency council meeting. "They need to know what they've done." General Han Min-soo slammed, his fist on the table. "Contact them? They tried to commit genocide against us. Let them figure out their own mistakes." "Sir, with respect, this isn't about them anymore," Kim Tae-ho replied. "If the disruption field continues expanding, it will destroy everything. Earth, Mars, all human colonies, and every other world in the galaxy. Everyone will die." President Song Mi-young studied the data on her tablet. She was a small woman with gray hair, but her voice carried authority that made generals listen. "Dr. Kim, is there any way to stop this device?" "Theoretically, yes," Kim Tae-ho said. "The disruption field has to be shut down from within its area of effect. But anything that gets close enough is torn apart at the molecular level. It would be a suicide mission, and we're not even sure it would work." "And if we do nothing?" she asked. "Everyone dies. Humans, aliens, everyone." President Song Mi-young was quiet for a long moment. Around her, the council waited for her decision. Outside, the war continued. Human ships were destroying alien fleets, human soldiers were conquering alien worlds, and the human species was winning the greatest victory in its history. But none of it would matter if the galaxy ceased to exist. "I want to speak to the alien leadership," she said finally. "Madam President," General Han Min-soo protested, "they might think we're trying to trick them." "They might, she agreed, but we have to try. The communication took hours to arrange. The aliens didn't trust anything humans said. They assumed every message was part of some complex military strategy. When President Song Mi-young's image finally appeared on screens across alien space, many alien leaders refused to believe she was really trying to help. "People of the galaxy," she began. "I am President Song Mi-young of the Human Coalition. I am contacting you about the cosmic disruptor your species activated 3 weeks ago." The Vorthak Prime Crystal responded first. "We will not be deceived by human tricks. The weapon is working exactly as intended." "No, it isn't," President Song Mi-young replied calmly. "Your weapon is out of control. It's destroying space-time itself. If we don't work together to stop it, every living being in the galaxy will die." She transmitted Dr. Kim Tae-ho's data to all alien networks. For several minutes, there was silence as alien scientists analyzed the information. The Namari High Council was the first to understand. Their gaseous forms flickered with panic. "This cannot be correct. The disruption field should be localized." "Your understanding of the device was flawed," Dr. Kim Tae-ho said, joining the transmission. "The weapon feeds on the quantum fluctuations of space-time itself. Every star system it destroys makes it stronger. At this rate, it will consume the entire galaxy." More alien voices joined the discussion. Fear and panic spread through the communication networks as alien scientists confirmed the human data. The weapon they had built to imprison humanity would instead destroy everything. "What do you propose?" asked the Drexy Deep Council. "A joint mission to shut down the device," President Song Mi-young said. "Our scientists believe it can be turned off from inside the disruption field, but it would require cooperation between all our species." "Why would you help us?" demanded the Kelthani Queen Mother. "We tried to exterminate your species." President Song Mi-young's expression was cold but determined. "Because letting everyone die to punish you would make us just as evil as you are. Humanity chooses to be better than that." The response from alien leadership was immediate and predictable. Some alien factions still refused to believe the humans were sincere. Others demanded that humans surrender their military advantages before any cooperation could begin. A few even suggested that the human data was fabricated to trick them into lowering their defenses. But as more star systems vanished from the galaxy, reality became impossible to deny. The cosmic disruptor was consuming everything in its path, alien and human alike. Dr. Kim Tae-ho worked frantically with alien scientists to design a shutdown procedure. The plan was terrifying in its simplicity. A small team would have to fly into the heart of the disruption field and manually override the device's controls. The mission would almost certainly be fatal. Nothing that entered the field had ever returned. "We'll need volunteers," Admiral Park Woo-jin said during another emergency meeting. "People who understand they probably won't come back." "I'll lead the mission," said Captain Lee Da-hai immediately. "Da-hai, no," Park Woo-jin protested. "You're too valuable to—" "Sir, with respect, everyone is too valuable," she interrupted. "But someone has to do it. I volunteer." Within hours, hundreds of humans had volunteered for the suicide mission. Soldiers, scientists, engineers, and civilians. People from every human colony wanted the chance to save the galaxy, even if it cost them their lives. President Song Mi-young addressed the Human Coalition that evening. Every human settlement, from Earth to the farthest frontier worlds, watched as she spoke. "Citizens of humanity," she began, "we face a choice that will define who we are as a species. We can let our enemies destroy themselves and take the galaxy with them, or we can risk everything to save everyone, including those who betrayed us. The aliens tried to commit genocide against us. They have earned our hatred and our revenge. But revenge means nothing if there's no galaxy left to inherit. I am asking you to vote on whether humanity should attempt to save the galaxy. This decision must be made by all of us together." The vote was the closest in human history. By a margin of less than 2%, humanity chose to attempt the rescue mission. They would risk their best people and their most advanced ships to save the same alien species that had tried to exterminate them, not because they forgave the aliens, not because they had forgotten the betrayal, but because humanity refused to let the galaxy die due to alien stupidity. As preparations for the mission began, one question haunted everyone involved. Would they succeed in time, or would they watch helplessly as the cosmic disruptor consumed everything they had ever known? The price of alien hubris might be the death of everything, but humanity would not let that price go unpaid without a fight. 6 months after the cosmic disruptor was destroyed, Ambassador Yoon Sora walked through the corridors of New Harmony Station. The space station orbited Earth, built from the wreckage of alien ships and human vessels that had been destroyed. During the war, it was a symbol of both destruction and renewal. Today, the station would host the first meeting of the new Galactic Assembly. Representatives from dozens of species would gather to discuss the future of a galaxy, forever changed by alien arrogance and human sacrifice. The numbers were devastating. 30% of all star systems had been destroyed or severely damaged by the cosmic disruptor. Entire civilizations had been reduced to small groups of survivors. Faster-than-light travel was now dangerous and unpredictable in many regions where space-time had been torn apart. Of the 4 alien species that had betrayed humanity, only fragments remained. The Vorthak homeworld was gone completely. Most Nimari had died when their gas giant homes were consumed by the disruption field. The Kelthani hives had collapsed into chaos, their unity broken forever. The Drexy deep-sea cities were empty, their occupants scattered across the galaxy as refugees. Humanity had emerged as the only major power with intact infrastructure and working technology. Their hidden preparations had protected them from both the alien attack and the cosmic disaster that followed. Now they faced a terrible irony. The species they had tried to destroy were begging them for help. Admiral Park Woo-jin stood in the assembly hall, looking out at the delegates who had gathered for the historic meeting. Humans sat next to the few surviving alien representatives. Many of the aliens looked uncomfortable, unused to being in a position of weakness. Members of the new Galactic Assembly, Park Woo-jin began, we are here to decide the future of our galaxy, not as conquerors and conquered, but as survivors of a disaster that nearly destroyed everything. The Vorthak delegate, one of only a few hundred of her species still alive, spoke first. Her crystal body was cracked and dim, a reflection of her people's broken state. Admiral Park, we know that humans have little reason to help us. We betrayed your trust and tried to exterminate your species. But we ask for mercy for our children who had no part in our leaders' crimes. Similar pleas came from the other alien delegates. The Nimari representative begged for help finding new worlds where his gaseous people could survive. The Kelthani asked for assistance in rebuilding their shattered communication networks. The Drexy requested aid in establishing new underwater colonies. President Song Mi-young watched from the gallery as the aliens who had once considered themselves superior to humanity now asked for help like desperate refugees. She felt no satisfaction in their suffering. Too many beings had died for anyone to celebrate. The new compact, Admiral Park Woo-jin announced, activating a holographic display, will establish the principles for rebuilding galactic civilization. The document was unlike anything that had existed before. Instead of pretending all species were equal, it acknowledged reality. Humanity was now the dominant power in the galaxy. But it also established protections for all surviving species and guaranteed their right to exist. Dr. Kim Tae-ho, working with teams of scientists from all species, had developed plans to heal the damaged regions of space. It would take centuries, but slowly the scars left by the cosmic disruptor could be repaired. New star systems could be seeded with life. Damaged worlds could be restored. Most importantly, the new compact established that humans would lead not through force but through demonstration. They would prove their worthiness to guide galactic civilization by their actions. We could have chosen revenge, President Song Mi-young said when she addressed the assembly. We could have let you all die when your weapon went out of control. We could have enslaved the survivors or simply ignored your suffering. Instead, we chose to save you. Not because we forgave you, some crimes cannot be forgiven, but because someone needs to be responsible for the galaxy's future, and that someone is us. The alien delegates listened in silence. Some looked ashamed of what their species had done. Others seemed resentful that humans now held all the power. A few appeared simply grateful to have survived at all. Over the following weeks, the assembly worked out the details of the new galactic order. Humans would control military forces and major infrastructure. Alien species would have autonomy within their own territories but would follow human leadership in matters affecting the galaxy as a whole. Trade agreements were established that favored human colonies, but still allowed alien communities to survive and even prosper. Educational programs would ensure that future generations understood the true history of what had happened, both the alien betrayal and the human response. Most controversially, the new compact established the Memorial Protocol. In every system where beings had died due to the cosmic disruptor, monuments would be built listing the names of the dead. The largest monument would be on Earth, honoring Dr. Park Dong-hyun and the other humans who had died saving the galaxy. But the monuments would also list the alien dead, including those who had participated in the original betrayal. As President Song Mi-young explained, "We remember all the dead, not to forgive their crimes, but to ensure that future generations never forget the cost of such stupidity." Captain Lee Dae-hai, now promoted to admiral, took charge of the Galactic Reconstruction Fleet. Her ships, staffed by crews from multiple species, began the long process of repairing damaged systems and establishing new colonies for refugee populations. The work was slow and often dangerous. Many regions of space were still unstable from the disruption field's effects. Ships could disappear without warning when they encountered pockets of twisted space-time. But gradually, progress was made. Engineer Choi Yu-na led teams that built new types of space stations, facilities that could operate safely even in regions where the laws of physics had been damaged. These stations became lifelines for isolated communities and bases for further reconstruction efforts. The most delicate work was done by diplomats like Ambassador Yoon So-ra, who had to negotiate with alien communities that were struggling to accept their new place in the galactic order. Some alien groups tried to rebuild their military forces, planning new rebellions against human authority. Others withdrew completely, refusing to participate in the new civilization being built around them, but most gradually accepted the reality of their situation. Humans had proven that they were the most capable species in the galaxy. They had revealed hidden strengths, demonstrated superior adaptability, and ultimately shown mercy to enemies who deserved none. As the first year of the new order ended, President Song Mi-young stood once again before the Galactic Assembly. Behind her, a holographic display showed the progress being made across the galaxy. New colonies were being established. Damaged systems were being repaired. Trade was flowing again between worlds. 1 year ago, she said, this galaxy, nearly, died because some species believed they could eliminate humanity through treachery and violence. They learned too late that humans are not easy to destroy. But they also learned something else. Humans are not interested in ruling through fear or domination. We lead because we must, because someone needs to be responsible for everyone's future. We didn't save the galaxy to own it. We saved it to prove that someone should. In the audience, alien delegates nodded respectfully. They had learned to understand humans in ways they never had during the 50 years of false peace. Humans were not just adaptable or intelligent or technologically advanced, though they were all of those things. Humans were the species that made the hard choices. When everyone else failed, they were the ones who took responsibility when others looked for someone to blame. They were the species that could be trusted with power, because they understood that power came with the obligation to protect those who were weaker. The galaxy was no longer the same place it had been before the betrayal. Too much had been destroyed, too many had died, and too much trust had been broken for things to ever return to the way they were. But in its place, something better was being built. A galactic civilization led by the species that had proven themselves worthy of leadership through the ultimate test. They had chosen to save their enemies rather than let the galaxy die. As the assembly session ended and delegates returned to their worlds, one thing was clear to everyone present. Humanity had not conquered the galaxy through superior weapons or ruthless tactics. They had inherited it by being the only species mature enough to deserve it.